Being a taxpayer does not grant special privileges over students, staff, and parents. I do not want random people with no education background or experience determining what books my child can read, what curriculum they learn, and what clubs they can join. Just because you can get up at every meeting and rant and rave does not give you authority over my child's education. Your personal religious beliefs, people in this room and on this board, should not be affecting my child's education either. Our schools are not to be used for personal political agendas, and our children are here for education, not religious indoctrination. I implore the board to put an end to trying to appease these extremists, focus on retaining staff, providing excellent public education, and a safe and welcoming learning space for all students. The speaker speaking about what great Christians they are, great. Go tell your pastor. Our schools are not your church. Thank you.
The community of Granbury was recently featured in the new season of the HBO Max series, We're Here.
The Emmy-winning series follows a trio of celebrity drag queens as they bring the art of drag to small towns across America.
Today, the Democratic chair of Hood County, Adrienne Martin, joins us to talk about her appearance in the show, as well as the controversial subjects discussed in the series. I'm Savannah Jones.
I'm Rex Ravita.
And this is KRLD's What to Watch. Many important issues were brought up, including book bans in Texas. And I know you recently got a Strong Backbone Award for speaking up on this topic. Talk to us about your thoughts on the issue of the book bans and why you chose to stand up.
Well, the book banning issue has been going on. If you've ever heard of the Krause list, it was a lawmaker, Matt Krause, made a list of 850 books that he wanted pulled from Texas school libraries, public school libraries. And he had no authority to do this. It wasn't a law. To me, it was kind of a promotional, like get attention kind of media stunt is kind of what I thought it was. And then Abbott picked it up and put out a message about it. And then certain school districts, like mine was one of the first ones, Granbury ISD, to actually start pulling books. And the original list that they started with was actually like 65% LGBTQ characters or stories. And they were labeling them as possible like pornography. So, which they were not. They simply had like LGBTQ love stories or just characters in general. So, of course that raised alarm bells that, we're getting into First Amendment issues. And according to the Supreme Court, in a decision called PICO, a school is not allowed to pull books because they disagree with the ideas in the books. Which is exactly what our school was doing, and our superintendent was caught on tape. So he's saying that he was pulling transgender books and LGBTQ books. So the issue is kind of really, really complicated, and it's ongoing, and it's still going to this day. And I feel it's important to keep speaking out about it because it is a violation, and the books represent those students. The LGBTQ students deserve to be able to look into books and see stories that reflect them.
100%. And while we're on the subject, the same way there's been controversy about books, recently there's been a lot of talk about drag shows, especially around this area and in Texas. So if you were to say something to the lawmakers about them trying to ban it, what would you say?
I would say go to a show. Go to a drag show and see what they really are, because they are entertainment first and foremost. A drag show is entertainment. I've loved going to drag shows really since I was a teenager because of the art, the transformation, the fun. No, not all drag shows are for kids, but they can be kid friendly. I mean, there's drag shows that are Disney based, and there's drag shows that are more adult based. And yeah, you shouldn't take your kids to an adult drag show, obviously. But, you know, we don't regulate parents taking their children to Hooters. We don't regulate, you know, a lot of the choices that parents make are their choices. And we do not want the state telling us where we can or can't take our kids. You know, that's a decision for the parents. But drag is an art form. It's been around literally forever. I mean, they were doing drag in Shakespeare. So I believe the controversy is really a lot of hype. And it's actually, you know, to me, a new way to target the LGBTQ community. And it's kind of a smear tactic.
Yeah. So can you tell us what was it like working with Shangela, Eureka, and Bob, and how did it feel to be transformed into a drag queen and actually perform in a show?
It was amazing, just like you would think it would be amazing. It was challenging. They really don't give you a lot of time. It's kind of amazing what they pull off so quickly with the costumes and the makeup and the production design. And, you know, they have the top of the line people working on that show. And Shangela was an awesome support system. She really, really like gave me enthusiasm, support, you know, she pumped me up, you know, made me confident. And Bob and Eureka, the same. I didn't get to spend as much time with them, but it was just so cool. And seeing myself in drag was a unique experience, to say the least. Like I really, it was almost kind of out of body. It didn't look like me, and I felt like kind of this whole new glamorous person.
Yeah, I mean, you killed it, obviously. It was amazing watching it, and especially you being from such a small town, and like, you probably don't have a lot of drag shows in Granbury, even
Never.
though you like them a lot. And speaking of that, I can relate to you a lot in the way that you're from, I think there's like 11,000 people in Granbury, around that. And I'm from Mississippi, so I was used to, you know, growing up being surrounded by people who don't necessarily align with the exact same views. And even though in the show there's a lot of negativity when they're walking through the parade, and you can just tell people do not want them there. And I think the silver lining in each episode, but especially the one with you, was meeting people like you that like speak up in amidst so much controversy and like backlash. So my question is, because I've struggled with this myself, how do you confront these people or deal with this sort of problem without losing your composure and just, you know, like saying what you really want to say?
Right. That's the hard part sometimes. Well, being from Mississippi, you're going to love the next episode on Friday. It's in Jackson, Mississippi. So I've heard it's amazing. Of course, I haven't seen it. I'll watch with everybody else on Friday. But so dealing with hateful people, or just trolls in general, I think it depends a lot on where they're coming from. If you can see that there's an opening to have an actual conversation, I think you can actually make change. If somebody can connect with you as a person and really listen to what you're saying, then I think an open dialogue is amazing. If you've got somebody that's name calling, making personal insults, obviously I think it's best to turn and walk away, or block that person, or whatever you need to do to protect yourself. Because some people you're just not going to reach, and you're really spinning your wheels. But I think it's more important that people see allyship and support. So it's more important to put myself out there than worry about how people are going to respond negatively.
Yeah, there was actually two parts in the show where it like sort of showed two different sides. When Eureka was walking through the parade, they're holding up a Bible verse, and you could tell she got like emotional over it and just had to step away so she doesn't lose her composure. And then on the other side, I think she was in the bleachers speaking to one man, and while he does hold the same opinions as, you know, most of the people from your town, you could kind of tell that deep down he doesn't truly care. It's just what he was taught growing up. And I just sort of wish there was a way to break out of that, especially at that age. And do you think that that's the case for most of the people in Granbury and just towns like that?
Hmm. I thought that scene was really bittersweet, you know, like it had a sweetness and a bitterness to it. Like, wow. But I know that scene grabbed a lot of people's attention. And do I think, do I think that there's a lot of people like that? Yeah, probably. A lot of people just aren't exposed. Because there isn't a large gay community here. There isn't, like you said, drag shows, or there hasn't been. Maybe we can change that, hopefully, because there are gay people here. They just kind of have been isolated because the town has been kind of inhospitable to them. But there's couples here that are older and that have lived here for decades, Um, and they get around just fine, but it's kind of like that thing you hear in the show. It's like, oh, it's okay, just don't put it in our face, kind of thing. So at that point, you know a lot of people have that attitude, and I think that needs to change, because there's no reason. It's just acceptance. If you have to hide, you're not being accepted.
Yeah, you can tell he did have, empathy, and he was kind of torn in between the two. So with someone like you, there's a silver lining, especially because you speak up. Whereas in your community with so little representation, what are some ways that we can do the same for anyone listening who wants to exact some sort of change in a similar way?
Well, I think one big part of it is being aware and being connected in your community. We tend to live in our own little pockets. We don't know our neighbors. We don't engage with what's happening with our schools or our city council. And with so much like negative, hateful lawmaking that's been going on, it's really important to stay involved in your local government too, because that's where a lot of this stuff starts, like the book banning, and it grows. So it's important that people speak up against these things when they happen, so that there's opposition. Because if there's no opposition, even if you don't win the fight, at least you spoke up. If there's no opposition, they just think, oh, this is fine. We'll just keep doing this because obviously no one cares. And I refuse to let that happen.
Yeah, I love the speech. I saw it before interviewing you, and the speech that you gave that actually got you that award. And I just thought it was so cool.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
it obviously takes so much courage to speak up around, because a lot of the people, in towns and states around the country, they're surrounded by people in a community where they know they're not necessarily going to make strides in a little amount of time. But just like you said, it's about being heard. Like, someone is being the voice, and you're one of few probably in your community. So what is it about you personally that drives you to do that? And like, what motivates you to speak up for underrepresented people?
Hmm. I've been asked that a few times, and it's really kind of hard to answer, because it's my question is not why do I do it, but why don't other people? Because to me, if I see something that I feel is unjust or wrong, I feel obligation to speak out about it. And I know other people do too. And there's other people in my town that do also. So I don't ever want to make it seem like I'm the lone person speaking out, because there are lots of allies here, and there's lots of advocates in Texas, great, amazing advocates. So, but yes, I just don't relate to people that just don't care. I've just always cared. I've always been really passionate for equality and equal rights. And it's just something that I can't stay quiet about.